Hi, we are looking at lesson 4 in the self-paced introduction to turtle programming. Um, the first task in lesson 4 starts off with a video. You will absolutely need to be watching this video in your own device and paying attention to all of the details of it. So please pause my video and please watch the video that's in your device. Okay, now we're on task 2. So I'm just going to take a look at all of the instructions. And it says defining and using a function with a parameter. From the video, you learn that defining multiple functions to draw different sized squares results in lots of repetitive functions. They are essentially the same, with a few numbers changed, and this is not desirable. Anytime you find yourself effectively copying and pasting large sections of code, it's a sign that there's a better way. So what they want us to do is to make these two squares. Let's take a look at what we have so far. Okay, so it looks like there's something wrong. It looks like we have this small square down here, but this large square is not a square, it's kind of like a flagpole. So they're letting us know that they've given us the square size function. So if I like to drag up my workspace, you can also hide your instructions. I just drag up my workspace so that I can still sneak in some of the instructions if I need them. So they want us to fix the code that's in here. So let's take a look. It looks like the function for draw square is varying in size. And if I look here, it looks like we're moving forward to whatever size. So the size is defined up here. I'm looking at line 3 of my code. I'm drawing one square that is 100 pixels long. Now in line 5, I'm drawing another square that is 25 pixels long. But if I look down here at my code, it has size for how far to move forward, so whatever the size was, and then turn rate 90 degrees to make that 90-degree angle to create the square. Then it says size 90, and then this one in line 13 says 33, and I actually need to change that to size because that was telling it to only move 33 pixels. So now that I've changed it to size, it's changing so that the square is a square that's at the proper size. Again, I just want to remind you, if you go down here below the toolbox, there's a turtle and there's a rabbit. If you kind of set it more to the center, it's going to draw things much slower, and you'll be able to see the yellow highlighter go through so that you can see exactly where you are at different places in your code. While it's moving, you can slow it down even more. Possibly you need to see a little bit more in detail what's going on if you have a mistake. But if you just want it to go very fast, you can put it all the way up to the rabbit. So that is task 2. All right, now task 3 task 3 for me was confusing, and I'll explain to you why. First of all, we have to draw triangles. So I know that a triangle, and I'm going to use my pen on the screen here. I know that a triangle is different than a square. A square, I have 90-degree angles. So when I was drawing my square, my turtle started here. So it moved up, turned 90 degrees, moved forward, turned 90 degrees, moved forward, turned 90 degrees, and then it was done. At this point, when I'm drawing a triangle, and if you take a look at this triangle that's actually on your screen, you'll see that the turtle starts right here. So it's starting in that up position. I'm just going to erase these drawings that I've given you because I need to write a little bit more. All right, so we are already starting in this up position, and it's oops, wrong pen, I apologize for that. All right, so we're starting in this up position, so we're going to be moving forward. Imagine that this turtle it's on this path to move forward, but in order for me to create a triangle, I can't just keep moving forward. I actually have to turn here. Now I'm again on this path of moving forward, but instead of moving forward, I'm going to have to actually turn here. So what I need is, let me get a different color. So what I'm looking for is this angle. What I'm looking for is this angle. I know that in a triangle, the interior angles equal 180 degrees. This is a straight line. A straight line is 180 degrees. If the interior angles of the triangle are 180 degrees, there are three angles. So 180 divided by 3 is 60. So the interior angle here is 60. This is a straight line now. This is 180. So I need to find what is this angle. So 180 minus 60 is 120. That's why the angle here is going to be 120 degrees. So I just want to kind of make this drawing a little bit easier for you to see. Let me just get my pen off of here and let's start this over. I just want to make this a little bit clearer. So my turtle is already in the upward direction. It's going forward. I need to turn it left. I need to turn it left 120 degrees because that's what this angle is. The interior angle is 60, but this angle, because I was projecting my line straight, so I needed the rest of this angle, which is 120 degrees, and the same thing is going to go here. All right, I hope that was clear for you. If not, please talk to me, and I see you in class. So let's take a look here. What I need to do now is I need to build my function. So I have to remember to put the pen down because the pen is up to start. If not, then I would have lines drawn all over this board. So when I start to draw my triangle, I need to put my pen down. Then I'm going to need to move forward. And I'm going to need to move forward whatever the size is. So whatever they're having us draw two different triangles. One is 100 pixels, the other is 150. So I'm going to move forward whatever my size is. Then I'm going to be turning left 120 degrees. Then I'm going to be moving forward whatever my size is. And then I'm going to be turning left 120 degrees. I'm then going to be moving forward whatever my size is. And looks like I have some, so it's side length and I wrote size. So let's do that. All right, so I did not put my pen up prior to drawing the second triangle. So that's my first problem. So I need to take my pen up. If you remember, I put my pen down in the beginning. I need to take my pen up. All right, so now we've got another issue. This is drawn all the way over here. I did not do a turn left at the very end. So let's see if that changes things. And it does. So I needed to have my code that looked like this. And if I run it through at turtle speed, I'm going to see that right now it's drawing the smaller triangle. Now it's running through that code. That last turn left in line 14 makes it so that that turtle is facing in the upward position. If I didn't have that turn left there, that means that the turtle was facing down at 120 degrees, and that's why the second triangle got drawn over here. All right, so now we're looking at calling functions with multiple parameters. So we're looking at the size of the square, but also the border width. So the size is how long each of the side lengths are, and the border width is how fat this the pen is. So let's take a look at it. Oops, sorry about that. All right. So what we want to do is take a look at in our function we have draw square, we have size and border width. So they're putting the pen down, defining the border width, and then giving all of the functions to draw the square. So now what we have to do is we have to call this function, and we want the first one is going to be move to 150, 150. So 150, 150 is going to be right about somewhere in here. And then the second one is to move to 250, 300. So 250, 300 is going to be down there. And if we take a look here, I see that the first one, I'm going to say that I want the, first of all, the function's called draw square. So that's going to call this function. And I want the size of that to be 100. And I want my border width there to be, let's see what 10 does. Now I'm going to do my second draw square. And I want this one to be a smaller one. So I'm going to do 50 because 50 is smaller than 100. And I'm going to make a larger border. So I'm going to say 20. Ah, looks good. So that's how we are, and I'm just going to play this one more time. So it's in turtle mode, well, in between at least. So this is me calling the first square to be drawn. It's a larger square with a thinner border, and the second square to be drawn, which is a smaller square with a larger border. And if you watch the yellow highlighter go through, you'll see exactly what pace it's taking. So right now it's starting with the border width, and now it's making that larger square, calling the sizes and turn left. Now it's going to be moving to the other position and then drawing the second square, which is a smaller square with larger borders. All right. All right. So now we're looking at defining functions with multiple parameters. So they want us to use multiple parameters here, and it looks like we are dealing with a triangle. This is what we're looking for in the end, is to have these two triangles. If you remember, the turtle is set to go forward, so we do need the angles to be 120 degrees. So let's keep that in mind, and let's take a closer look at these instructions. So it says, now it's your turn to define a function that accepts multiple parameters. Just like in the previous example, make sure you separate your parameters with commas and give them descriptive and meaningful names. So drag out the function block and name your function draw triangle. So they are calling the function here, but we need to build a function. And we're going to name this draw triangle. All right. And it says define draw triangle that have two parameters within the parentheses. So I need two parameters here. And they want them to be descriptive and meaningful names. So I am going to use size and width, but if you want to get creative and do something else, feel free. So I'm going to be using size and width. And if we look at our code, if you look at line 3, we have the size as 150 and the width is 5. And number 5, line 5, we have the size as 200 and the width is 10. And that's what's making, this is the smaller triangle, so each side is 150 pixels long, and the border width is 5 pixels. And this is the larger triangle, which each side is 200 pixels long, and the width is 10. So now we're going to create our triangle drawing. So what we need to do, we have to make sure that we always put the pen down to start, and we always put the pen up at the very end. So I personally like to put it in at the very beginning, because if not, I promise you I will forget. So I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to be moving forward whatever the size is saying, and then I'm going to be turning to the left, and that is going to be at 120 degrees. And let's see, I can just copy and paste these. I just did Control-C and Control-V. Now I need to identify the width. You'll see that I still have a yellow triangle here, and if I hover over it, it says width is defined, but it's not called in your program. So after I put the pen down, now I'm going to need to put the pen width in there, and I'm going to name that width so that it calls whatever the width is. I'm going to press run. All right, and it looks like we've got the same thing that they're asking for. And I'm just going to run this one more time in slower motion so that you can follow through and look at the yellow follow through and look at the yellow highlighter. Now it's drawing the first one, and it's calling each of the steps in the function. Now it's drawing the second one, and it's going through each of the steps in the function. All right. All right. At this point, number 6 is part of the assessment, and it says, which of the following is not part of defining the function? So giving the function a name, well, we absolutely have to give the function a name. The function's name, if you look down here where it says for teachers only, the function's name is draw shape. So that is the name. Identifying the parameters of the function. Well, that's where size and color are. We're identifying the parameters. Giving the parameters a value. So defining the function, I'm not actually giving them a value. I'm saying you're going to call for whatever the size or whatever the color is. And adding code to the body of the function, well, we have to add that code, because if we don't add that code, the shape will never be drawn. So what we do not do when we define a function is we do not give the parameter a value. All right. At this point, we're just going to be adding a comment block. And what they want you to really know is that the comment block, which is this gray block, it does not do anything to the code. And the purpose of writing a comment block is a couple of things. First of all, it's so you know what each piece of the code is. This right here is a lot of code. So if you look through task 7, you'll see that there's a lot of code there. And it's just walking you through what's going on here. So prepare the turtle to draw. So looks like we're hiding the turtle and we're taking the pen up. Then we're drawing the background, wherever the background is. The background's right here. Then we are drawing the starfish. So the starfish, that's right here. This is the code to draw the starfish. And so on and so forth. There's seagrass and fish, and this is the code for the fish. And this is the code for the seagrass. So hopefully you find these comments to be helpful. If you needed to add a comment, they're in the functions. And right there is the comments. And right here, this is Drawstarfish. It looks like there's no comment there. So we're going to add a comment just by dropping that in. And this, we're going to say draw starfish. So that's just going to walk you through that particular step so that when you're looking through it, you remember what each of these pieces of code are for. And if somebody else were looking through your code, they would be able to see what it is that you're trying to get through. So if we run that, we see the beginning of our beautiful underwater scene. All right. Task 8. So in the next several challenges, you'll be working to improve one program that draws an underwater scene. Each time you finish a puzzle and move on to the next one, your code will be pulled forward and you'll get new instructions telling you what to add. So if you look at task 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 is still a continuation. So 8 through 14, you're going to be working on the same scene. They're just putting you through one piece at a time. So they're asking us to read through the program to get a basic understanding of what it does. We did that in the last task. Add function calls in the early lines of the program so that 2 fish, 2 starfish, and 2 pieces of seagrass appear somewhere in the scene. You'll need to provide values for the parameters at this stage. Okay, so right now, I see 1 fish, 1 starfish, and 1 piece of seagrass. But we want to add so that there is another fish, another starfish, and another piece of seagrass. And they're telling us here, this is the hint. You'll need to call move to before drawing a second of any of these. Because this fish is right here, and if I just draw a second fish right over top of it, I'm not going to see it because it's going to be right over top of it. And then they want us to test out our code. So if I take a look at the picture, the sample picture that they're giving me, this is about where they're putting things. I'm just going to take a look, and I could see that I want another fish maybe right about here. So I see that this first fish, so this first fish is at 100, 100. So let's say maybe I want my second fish at maybe 200, 200. So I'm going to say move to, and it's going to say 200, 200. So now I want a second fish at 200, 200. And the goal here is going to be, a provision. So now we're going to draw fish. So now I'm going to have 2 fish. Okay, looks good. Now I want to add a starfish. So I'm going to go up here to where the starfish are, and I'm going to say I want my next starfish. This is a 150, 400. I think I want my next starfish to be about here. So I'm going to say maybe that's about 75, 350. Let's try that. And now I have to call the function to draw the starfish. All right, looks good so far. And now I need another piece of seagrass. So the seagrass I do want to be kind of right next to this. Since I'm here, I'm just going to drag that function in, and I'm just going to add the move to in between. So my next piece of seagrass, I am going to just put at 100, 450. And where I made that decision is I see that the first one was at 50, 450, so I'm going to just move it over by 50. And I might even want to add multiple pieces down here, just so it looks like they are really going through some seagrass. Okay. All right, now I have a problem here. You'll see that this piece of seagrass is, it looks like it's floating around in the water. I didn't put the turn to 0 degrees. So what we need to do is add, after move to, we have to put turn to 0 degrees, because if you remember, my turtle is always facing up. So I need to, before it starts drawing the seagrass, I need it to turn to 0 degrees so that it can properly follow the code. And there we go. All right. So now we're going to add parameters to the starfish. So we want to make our picture more interesting by adding some variety. It says currently the starfish function can only draw a starfish of size 60. So if I open up my code and I look at the drawing of the starfish, it looks like it's to move forward 60 pixels. And I do want to run this in turtle mode so you can see the starfish as it's being drawn. All right, so right here is the starfish being drawn. They're literally drawing a star. And the pen width is what's making it look like it is an enclosed, like a closed-in feature. So that's how they're making the star. And right now, each of these side lengths is 60. All right, so let's see what they want us to do. Add a parameter to the function definition for Drawstarfish to allow you to control its size. So what we're going to do is we are going to change when it comes to the starfish. Sorry, right there. I'm just going to use this arrow and go out, and use this arrow and go out. And we're going to want to make the starfish different sizes. So this is where I'm going to identify my size. Right now, my size is 60 as written in the code down here. But I'm going to add a parameter called size. And instead of moving forward 60, it's going to move forward whatever size I've called for. And if I go back up, and now I'm in lines 11 and 13. If I go back up, I'm going to see that I can define how large I want the starfish to be. If you remember, they were at 60. I'm going to make one of them smaller, and I'm going to make the other one larger. let's see how this goes. And I'm going to ramp up my speed. So there's the little one, and there's that bigger one. Okay, so we've got a little issue. If you look at the larger one, it has like a hole in the center. If you look at the small one, it almost looks like a flower petal. So there's one more thing that we have to change in the starfish. The pen width, we're going to need to make whatever the size is as well. Maybe not. Nope, that's making it way too big. Maybe I can keep that at 30. Well, I like the way that this one looks, the one that we've called for to be, I made that one 90. The smaller one, I don't really like how that looks. I'm going to call for that to be 40. And let's see how that goes. So we don't want to make them too big or too small, because if you make it too big, it's not going to really look great. If you make it too small, it's not really going to look great. So, all right. All right, and there's the rest of that scene. So keep that in mind. If you make it too big or too small, it's going to look a little funky. All right. Now we are in task 10. So we want to keep adding variety, and we want to change the seagrass this time. So currently the draw seagrass function can only draw one piece of seagrass with arcs of a radius of 100. I just need to remind you what the word radius means. So this is a radius of 100. So if I were to draw a circle, the radius is from the center point out. So right now we're looking at seagrass, and if I were to draw a radius of 100, that means that from the center point out, this is 100. So now I'm going to draw it this way, and then this way. If I wanted to draw something with a radius of, say, 25, that means that from the center point out, it's going to be 25. If I wanted to draw something with a radius of, say, 200, that means it's going to be 200 pixels from the center point out. So that's what that radius of 200 means. All right, so let's draw a parameter for drawing the seagrass, and we only need to change the radius of each of the arcs. So when it comes to the seagrass, it's right here in lines 16 through 21. What I want to do is add a parameter for the arc. Right now they said that the radius was 100, so I'm going to add one that is, let's say, 75. And another one that's, let's say, 125. I want to make one of the seagrasses to be a wider radius, and another to be a smaller radius. So go down into my code, and I'm looking at lines 56 through 70. And this is where I have the function of drawing the seagrass. So I'm going to add a parameter called arc. And instead of 100 for the radius, and if I remember, I can look over here and I see that it's arc right and arc left. And the first number is the angle, the second number is the radius. So that's how I know that I'm going to be changing this 100. And I'm going to be changing all of those so that they are calling for whatever the arc is that I'm calling for. Oops. That made the program run really, really quick. All right. Now it's really, really slow. Let's do that. So first we're making our starfish. Then we're going to make the seagrass. And now the fish. All right. All right. So now we're going to add parameters to the Drawfish. Right now it's the size of 30. So I want us to add a parameter to the function for Drawfish that allows you to control its size. The pen width is really important here. So let's go take a look at our code. So when we are calling for drawing the fish, I know that right now the fish is at 30. So I think I'm going to make one of the fish a little bit smaller, so 20, and another of the fish a bit bigger, so let's say 50. And now I have to go down to where I'm drawing my fish, and I'm going to add the size. So part of my function is now size. My pen width is going to be whatever size I've called for. My initial dot is going to be whatever the size is that I've called for. And all of my move forwards are going to be whatever the size is that I'm calling for. Oops. And let's just run this a little slower so that we can watch the code as it goes through. There's a lot of code here, so it's kind of hard for us to keep up with where it is. But if you watch it piece by piece, and if you work on each thing piece by piece, then right now we can just be focused on the draw fish code. And when it starts to draw the fish, we will be able to take a look at the fish and make sure that they look appropriate. That fish is big. All right. All right. So now we're looking at multiple parameters. So we want to do even more. So we're going to be adding some variety to the color. So you need to add 3 more parameters called red, green, and blue. And what we're in right now is just in the draw fish function. You'll be given an opportunity to do more, but let's just do this in the draw fish. So we're going to go to this draw fish function, and we want to add 3 parameters called red, green, and blue. So now we're going to be calling for different colors. So just as a reminder, red, green, and blue come from the different color names. So the RGB. So if you wanted to make this color, that's how much red, that's how much green, and that's how much blue makes that particular color. Feel free to play around with these. Like here's orange. It's that much red, that much green, and that much blue that makes that orange color. And then if you wanted to make dark orange, and just as a reminder, these colors I did get from your Google Classroom that I have, I put a post in for you to get more colors. And if you are interested in looking through these different colors and using these, you can. Or you could just simply play around with different values in here. So we're going to make both of your fish different colors. I'm sorry, this is where I'm assigning the actual values. I need to actually put the red, green, and blue down here. So next to where it says Drawfish, I need to add red, green, and blue. And then where it says pen RGB, I need to be calling for the red, the green, and the blue value. All right, it's up here where I'm actually calling for that code that I'm identifying how much red, how much green, and how much blue. So if I want this to be an all blue, I'm going to put 0 red, 0 green, and just blue. If I want this to be all red, and I'm sorry, these are values between 0 and 255. And if I wanted it to just be red, I'm going to put 255 red, 0 green, 0 blue, and let's see how this goes. So I have this fish is just all blue because that's what I've called, and this fish is all red. If I wanted to make this big one more of a purple, I'm going to say 255 of red and 255 of blue because red and blue makes purple. So that's like a shade of purple. If I wanted my purple to be more blue purple, maybe I'll only do 150 red. So I can play around with my values here, or if you wanted to, you could choose a particular color here and go on with it there. That's how I'm making my fish different colors. All right. All right, so now in task 13, we're starting to talk about random numbers. So a random number is going to be calling any number randomly within the parameters that you have set. So if we have this Drawstarfish, let's take a look, and they want us to use random number calls in all 3 of the drawing functions. So I'm just going to start it with 1, and let's do this with the Drawstarfish. If you remember, anything, if I had a 30 in here for drawing the starfish, and I'm looking at line 11 right now, I felt like that was a little bit too small. So I'm going to keep my starfish between 40 and, say, 90. I can go to the math tab in the toolbox, drag in the random number. Right now, the random number is anything between 1 and 10. Well, if I drew a starfish that was somewhere between 1 and 10, it's just going to be a little blob. I've already said that I don't want my starfish to be less than 40, and I don't think I want it to be greater than 90. So I'm going to put a random number in between 40 and 90. And I'm doing that for both of my starfish. So now every time I reset run this, if you look at my starfish, they're always a different size. We're going to do that to the seagrass. So I did one at 75 and one at 125. I think I personally want my seagrass to be between 75 and 125. I like how tall the 125 is, and I like the height of the 75. The reason that the height is different is because you're calling for a different radius. So in order to make the radius to be longer, that means you're actually elongating the seagrass, and the same thing goes with it being shorter. So right now, it's calling for a random number between 75 and 125. They're not necessarily going to be the same. So just keep pressing reset and run so you can see what's going on there. And now let's go to the fish. So as far as the fish goes, I have one fish at 20 and one fish at 50. I personally think that 20 is about as small as I would want, and 50 is about as big as I would want, because the 20 looks it's almost a little bit too small, and the 50, any bigger than that, is going to be really big. You can feel free, though, to choose what you want to do. And if I take a look there, I'm going to see that I have every time I press reset run, my entire picture is changing color. Or I'm sorry, my entire picture is changing the size. Okay. So now what we want to do is put these random numbers in just so that we can kind of keep some variety going. So you can use the random numbers anywhere. You can add some more features to your scene. I personally am going to use random numbers for my for the color of my fish. And the way I'm going to do that is I know that each of these values is somewhere between 0 and 255. So I'm going to have it choose a random number between 0 and 255. And remember, this is going to be for this upper fish. So every time it's a completely different color. It's just chosen random values between 0 and 255. Now, if I wanted to make this, second fish, different shades of purple per se, I can make the red and the blue be anywhere between 0 and 255. Although if they both randomly end up at 0, that could be funky. Like right now I have a black fish. So now this is a different shade of purple. The other one was a red one, which means that the blue probably ended up at 0. So maybe what I'll do is not put it at 0. Maybe I'll make my low value more like 50. So we at least have some color from each of the red and the blue. And then we should have versions of the color purple. All right. You can continue on and keep doing some random stuff to your underwater scene. And right now we're looking at our second assessment, and they're asking us to select the true statement about functions with parameters. So parameters can only be used once within the body of a function. Well, that's not true because we're using multiple parameters everywhere. Functions with parameters create duplicated code. That is not true because we are doing different things to those parameters to call for different things. Values do not need to be provided to a function with parameters in any particular order. They absolutely need to be in a particular order because the code is calling for certain things. And parameters help generalize the solution of a specific problem. This is the true statement because those parameters are going to help us to make a general statement over the entire code, and from there it's going to draw what we're looking for. I hope you found this video helpful, and feel free to carry on with lesson 5.